Welcome to COP 1000 Module 4. We're going to discuss basic programming using Python. These videos, you should use them by, one, pretending that you're like inside of a classroom. You need to take notes as you watch these videos or look at the material. As you watch the videos, you need to pause or read the material and flip back and forth from the examples in the videos and from Python source code itself. In other words, you should be typing along with the videos. Later, as the videos end, you need to practice what you saw. You need to practice coding, practice coding, practice coding. This isn't optional. Unless you practice, you will not learn this stuff. Another thing that's important is learning problem-solving skills is not the same as creating a solution to a problem. Learning problem-solving skills is not the same as understanding a problem. Sorry about that. And also, you need to refer to the ebook or any textbook will do as often as you can. So the videos, the materials provided, and look at a textbook. Your first Python code, what you need to do is you need to open or run idle. It's going to look just like this. You need to go to the command prompt. This is the command prompt, and possibly type something like print hello world and press enter. Do it again with double quotes, single quotes. Most programming languages require a string, which is a series of characters, to be in double quotes. Python will allow you to use double or single quotes. It really doesn't matter, but since most programming languages use double quotes, I think that's what I will be using. Now we are at a Python command prompt, and we can type print When we type print, left parenthesis, right parenthesis with hello world inside double quotes in the middle, we press enter. That statement executes, as you can see here in blue, and you see the output, which is hello world. If you do it with single quotes, works again. What you can't do is mix double and single quotes. That's what's called a syntax error, because the language doesn't allow it. So if you're going to use single, you stick with single. If you're going to use double, you stick with double. Again, I will be using double from this point forward. In Python or any language, you have a series of what's called built-in functions. A function is a program or routine that performs a specific task. For example, we just saw in the previous example the print function. Print is a function. Typically, a function is going to have a name followed by a left and a right parenthesis and something in the middle. These functions together are a group of tools that you will use as a programmer. Again, the first function would be print. Notice print, left paren, right paren. Print produces output on the screen. For example, print, left paren 5, asterisk 5. The asterisk is the multiplication symbol. That would display 25. Here's an example of a print where I say print 5 times 5, comma, in quotes, this should equal 25 right. This is going to display 25. This should equal 25 right. So we have the command prompt as we saw, which would be the 3 greater than signs, where we can type anything we want and hit enter. Also, at the idle window, we can run our code from the source code document. We can create a group of code. So at the idle window, we can click on File and click on New, and we'll be inside of a source document. So let's see that happen. So we can say File, New, and now we're inside of a source document. In here, we can type our commands as we want, and then we can press F5 or run, either one, F5 or run, to make the code execute. So for example, this is my very first source code. When I go to run it, since it's the very first time, it tells me I need to save it. I will place it somewhere that makes sense. So this is my first program. I'm going to name my code. This is my first program. I'm going to make sure I save it as a Python file. I hit save, and it runs. When it runs, I just restarted the window. This is my very first source code. I'm going to run it again. This is my very first source code. Or I can press F5. This is my very first source code. All programming languages have what's called common escape sequences. These escape sequences are used inside, for example, of the print format part, the stuff inside the double quotes, to use special characters or actions. So I could do a tab, a new line. I could create a double quote, a single quote, or backslash. I need the escape sequence symbol inside of a double quote because double quote has a special meaning, so does the single quote, and so does the backslash itself. So for example, if I type print Valencia College, I'm going to see the word Valencia College. If I type print Valencia backslash new line space college, I'm going to see Valencia, then a new line, then a space, and then the word college. Or if I print tab Valencia College, it's going to move it over. I believe the tab is like 8 or 10 spaces depending on your settings. And finally, if I want to put Valencia College inside of double quotes, I need to say escape sequence, double quote, Valencia College, escape sequence, double quote, and then that's my print format string, double quote, and that gets me Valencia College like that. Throughout my code, I'm going to have what's called white space, or blank characters that appear, such as spaces, tabs, line breaks. This white space, for the most part, is used to make your code more readable. I don't need white space, but if I don't place white space, it would be impossible to read. Whatever I put in white space is ignored by the interpreter or the compiler. I should put each line of code on, or I should put each statement on a single line. I should be consistent the way I use my spacing throughout my code. I should use blank lines to separate different sections or parts of my code, and I should indent in order to keep my code together. And we'll discuss why we do that later. Besides white space, we're going to also have something called comments. Comments are text or statements, including your program, to explain what is happening, what you are thinking, or how to provide other types of documentation. Comments are also ignored by the compiler or interpreter. In most programming languages, there are two different types of comments, inline and block. In Python, we do an inline comment with a pound sign, and we do a block comment with 3 single quotes next to each other. We type our block comment, which can span over multiple lines, and we end it with 3 single quotes next to each other. For example, here is something called a comment header. So I start a line with a single pound sign. Everything else is ignored. Everything else is ignored. Everything else is ignored. So this is what I did here on this screen is what's called a comment header. You should have a comment header above your source code, or where at least your main source page of your source code is at all times. You should have a minimum your name, date, and purpose statement. You can do that comment header using inline comments, or you can do it with a block comment. I don't really care how you do it. It's personal preference. I prefer making that marquee around my comment header. But make sure it's important that you always do a comment header. Comments can appear anywhere in your code. For example, if I had some kind of line of code that x equals, this is actually going to later be pronounced gets, 5 star star, which is asterisk asterisk, which is multiplication multiplication, but when I put these two together, it's actually called raised to a power. So 5 raised to the power of 3. Well, here's a comment that explains that. This raises the number 5 to the power of 3 and stores the result inside of this thing called x, whatever that means. Here's my print function, and I can say print x. Well, what does that do? Here's a comment. This should display the number 125. Here would be an example of a block comment. Somewhere you might see this in your code, depending on what your code's doing. This part of code will compute the paycheck stub for each employee, then display the paycheck stub for each of the employees. Single line comment, multi-line comment. So again, comments can be placed throughout your source code. All right, so I'm done with this module. Quick summary, do not watch these videos. You need to do the videos, meaning go into Python, type along what you see in the videos. Remember, idle is an IDE. We can have a command prompt or a source document to create programs. Remember that we saw a built-in function, which is a tool for a programmer. Which is a tool for a programmer, such as the print function. We learned about escape sequences, which are special characters within a format string of the print function. We learned about whitespace, which is ignored by the compiler. We learned about single line or block comments. And then finally, we talked about a comment header. Okay, that's it for this module 4. See you in the next module.